Miss Andrews, are you okay?
Definitely not. I'm actress Valerie Alline, and I play Amy Andrews in the new film, The Empty Space.
It's okay. Everything's gonna be okay.
A violent attack leaves her without her boyfriend, her home, her sense of self. Amy, like so many of us, suffers from mental illness. As she tries to get her life back together, she's haunted by terrifying visions that may or may not be real. Empty Space goes beyond the slasher and takes you deep into the void. We hope you join us as our film premieres on streaming. We also hope that not only are you frightened, but you gain some insight into a serious problem that affects so many people, including the filmmakers. I know how it sounds. What if it's real? The Empty Space, a terrifying new vision from director Andrew Hara.
Welcome back to the Bomb Squad. If you saw the trailer before this, you know it's the Bomb Squad, and you know I'm still promoting the movie The Empty Space. So come along as we actually have just a friend of the podcast. There's no crew members today, but maybe in the future. So yeah, so we have another guest. Josh is on his honeymoon, doing honeymoon things, and so we brought Bethany Reay. Hey Bethany, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Cool. Can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm a student. I'm going to UNM, but recreationally, I do acting and modeling and writing and all sorts of things.
Cool. Well, we're gonna have to kick you off of this podcast because me and William went to NMSU, and we, for some reason, still have very rough ideas about rivalries.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that you were a UNM person.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, I'm so sorry. I can pretend I
about
go to
3 more
NMSU.
years.
Cool.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just for the
Yeah,
podcast.
just look really depressed and like really
Yeah.
hot. Like, oh man, it's
Got
so
it.
hot here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So, how did you get into wanting to be in acting and streaming and everything?
Well, I have been acting since I was like 5 years old. I grew up in New York, and in the little town that I'm from, it's the Bronx. Theater is a really big thing, and so if you get swept up into be doing plays and all sorts of like improv theater things as like a little kid, you never get off the wave, and I don't think
Yeah.
I
Right.
ever did. And just doing that since I was young, like I never hated it. I just grew to love it more, and now I'm a big girl. I'm an adult, and I'm like, let's do acting for realsies now.
Right.
So,
Coolio. And if you've paid attention to anything I've ever done, you should probably have figured out how me and Bethany are friends. And maybe there'll be something down the pipeline for that very reason. I'm going to become a streamer. That's
Getting him
the announcement. I'm joining Skid or whichever the gambling one is. I will sell out in a second. So yeah, so as always, on the first time we allow the guests to pick, and so Bethany picked Romeo plus Juliet. William Shakespeare's Romeo plus Juliet is a full movie. Baz Luhrmann is the director. The writers it has one of the writers as William Shakespeare. Baz Luhrmann, calm down.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna say that a lot throughout this production because also William Shakespeare, calm down. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes, John Leguizamo giving what his best performance is. Maybe not his best, but definitely his sexiest. And a whole bunch, like it has so many people that like it has Paul Rudd and he plays like a handsome guy, which is
Yeah.
but he still has Paul Rudd faces. We'll talk about it.
yeah.
It also has Paul Sorvino who's playing like the father Capulet, and it's like that makes perfect sense. But then it has Brian Dennehy, and I'm like, okay,
But he
cool.
looks good though. He looks the part. He's like
Yeah.
his like little clam head is like, I don't know. I thought he was great.
He does do a serviceable counter to Paul Sorvino.
Yeah.
Paul Sorvino looks like Droopy Dog. And I don't think we have to tell you what this movie's about. If you've been to high school or elementary school, you probably figured it out. So let's jump into Bethany. Why did you pick Romeo plus Juliet?
It has been my favorite film since I think I was 9. And I actually really like that because when I was little, I liked the movie because I liked Romeo and Juliet, first of all. I was a really weird kid. But I got to grow with it and then start to appreciate you know, more than just the colors and the fun dialogue and Leonardo DiCaprio. I just, so I think it's a really fun movie to have with you your entire life.
Yeah, yeah. I think it took me until this showing to kind of get over the colors and Leonardo DiCaprio, to be honest. But that's what we watch it for. Josh, damn William, I'm sorry. You guys look.
It's okay.
I can't tell anyone apart. William, what did you think of Romeo and Juliet? William, did we watch this movie at your house one time?
I feel like we did, or we were
Yeah.
going to. I remember I had it, and I had like that cool like slipcase kind of
Yeah.
cover that looked like really fancy.
I don't remember if we
didn't-
watched it. I think we would have just watched the John Leguizamo part.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't, but I know exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I like so kind of on the same vein. Like I really like Moulin Rouge a lot. Like that's been one of my favorite movies since I was like probably 13 or 14. So even though this isn't, I like Moulin Rouge better. I'd still like to see Baz Luhrmann's kind of like really crazy editing style. Like he has like a really cool way of making people seem like cartoons in a way, but
Mhm.
like not in like a stupid way, but like in a just like a really heightened like I don't know, almost like Martin Scorsese, but like theater type of way.
Yeah.
Like people will like whenever Miss Capulet is like being like Juliet, Juliet, and like he like speeds them up and like makes them kind of like go on fast forward for a few seconds. Like he does
Yeah.
that Moulin Rouge too.
Yeah.
And I know that
He
some
loves
people
to do
find
that.
a little crazy, but I think it's really fun and it's doesn't need to be said. But I mean, he really breathed a lot of life into such an old ass play, and it's cool. I thought he did a good job. It was a huge movie when it came out, and I don't know. I feel like it's really hard to remake Romeo and Juliet and make it a new cultural icon in a way.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I saw watching it this time was like, because I really like 10 Things I Hate About You, which is like based on Taming of the Shrew.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like that movie is super cool, but it kind of feels like they turned a Shakespeare play into a rom com as opposed to like turning a mod or like making Shakespeare modern, if that makes sense. And this definitely feels like they even have like the Capulets and the, like of course like there's the guns that all say swords on them. That's like the easiest
yeah.
marker. But they even have like the buildings that one of them says Montague and one of them's Capulet. And it's
Yeah.
like you have to be like a atomic level theater nerd to think that far ahead as to how to update your Romeo and Juliet movie, you know?
This movie should be like so niche. Like it should be for like cool Shakespeare nerds,
Yeah.
but like just everybody in the 90s loved it. And so it just became this crazy phenomenon. But you're totally right. It's the weirdest movie to ever be like, I don't know, such like this spectacle.
Yeah. It's kind of like that
in the background that like Shylock Motel and like other little references to other Shakespeare plays. Like it's just so
yeah.
I don't know, academic in a way.
It's even that thing where like it's a difference like in The Dark Knight with Christopher Nolan. It's just Chicago. Like Gotham City isn't anything cool. But like if you go back to like Tim Burton's Dark Knight, like it looks like a completely different. It looks like a different world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the difference between like a lot of the modern, even like Great Expectations, the one with Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. It's like they kind of do it a little bit, but they shy away from going all in. And Baz Luhrmann never shies away from going all in, sometimes to his detriment. So yeah, I think that kind of works in this one.
Yeah. Do you like other movies, Bethany? Do you like Moulin Rouge or like Australia or The Great Gatsby or anything?
I haven't seen two of those. The Great Gatsby, yeah. I think I like weird movies. Like I can appreciate film, but I think I look so goofy next to people who know what they're talking about because they're like, "Oh yeah, what's your favorite movie?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I like David Bowie in Labyrinth." And it's like, okay.
We are two fools in garages, essentially.
Yeah.
We almost know nothing.
Yeah. Have you seen these posters back here?
Yeah.
Those are made by a dumb man. It's also that is funny because like my favorite movie is Hellboy, and people will be like, "Oh, the Guillermo del Toro movie? Do you mean Hellboy 2?" And I'm like, "Nope." And they're like, "Do you mean Pan's Labyrinth?" And I'm like, "Still no. Like it's Hellboy Part 1. It's the one that got cut apart by studio executives."
Yeah. It still looks good.
Yeah. And so I think I think it works really well. And so like what initially drew you like cuz you said you're a huge fan of Romeo and Juliet. Have you seen
Yeah.
any other adaptations?
I think I've seen every single one of them. I first read Romeo and Juliet in the fourth grade,
Yeah.
and
Oh
I
wow.
didn't understand most of it, but I read it over and over until I did. I'm actually a pretty big Shakespeare nerd, and I think that's why I love this movie. Like you guys were saying, like
You are the
it's something
niche.
that nerds can appreciate, but it's also pretty mainstream, and so anybody can watch it and be like, "Whoa!" But it's like there's certain bits of it that people are gonna look at and be like, "I really appreciate this," because
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you've read it over and over and over, it's just
Right.
something that you pick up on.
Yeah.
Yeah, seeing this again is like because I don't remember last time I saw it. I think we maybe mentioned college, but even then it's iffy. But I know I saw it as a teen, or and when I was still considering myself a teen, and watching it more as an adult, it kind of like appreciate it a little bit more because it adds to like I don't know. I think as a kid, when you're underage and you're watching it, like I didn't understand that how young Romeo and Juliet were because
Totally.
Right.
they were
Yeah.
older than me, and so everyone in the movie was older than me.
Yeah. You're like, well, they must know what they're doing. This,
Right.
Yeah,
in some world, this makes
exactly.
sense.
And so,
Yeah.
like, but now watching it this time, you do feel the tragedy a lot more because you're like, oh yeah, they're super young, and they're like,
Yeah.
they're kind. And I do like how Shakespeare himself was like the most. He like has so much drama in him. He's like the most exaggerated because he's like even back then he was like, oh, what if they get married? It's like hold your horse.
Yeah.
I also think my favorite thing about it is that, the funny thing is, I think if this movie came out today, it would kind of be crucified a little bit because it starts off with like a news report and they read the opening like lines of the play, and
Hmm.
then it cuts to a narrator rereading those exact same lines but with clips from the movie. And I think like more movies should open with like recaps of the movie that we haven't seen yet. But I think that
Yeah.
that's like just the you have to like have the most confidence in your work to be like I'm opening it with two openers that are exactly the same.
Yeah. To what is it in the play? I think it's the chorus, I believe.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And
And
I
yeah,
think
I thought
like
it was really clever using like a newscaster for that to kind of like have that be
mhm,
sort of like the frame narrative around everything. Because like it's,
yeah,
I feel like it really helps to like, because I remember when I had to teach this to like my ninth grade class, and like I remember reading it in ninth grade and just like it was so hard to kind of like visualize what it was like, and that these people are kind of like dumb rich kids running around. Like when I was like when I was younger, I didn't really understand like what this would actually be like, and I feel like for just modern audiences who are having to learn Shakespeare, at least, like this really does a great job of like really putting you in that world, like seeing like here's what these guys were like, here's what Mercutio and everybody else was like, just they're kids, they're silly, they're too violent. The adults are trying to control these wild teenagers, and I don't know. I really liked having the visual and like seeing it in a weird modern setting, which maybe someone would call that like holding your hand through it, but I really appreciate that, and I feel like it really helped me to understand the play a lot better, anyways.
yeah. I definitely think that like it makes it more accessible. Especially, I almost like how much they kind of keep the old English dialogue and the way it works. And like there's a couple of points where they take it out. Like I think when Mercutio is is hurt, like I think what's his face, John Leguizamo says something like he just goes, oh no, when he sees Leonardo DiCaprio he goes, there's your man. And he says it like he doesn't say it with the inflection of like the old English dialogue.
I
Mm,
think the
And
line is
so
"Here comes your man."
okay, never
And
correct
it,
me.
well, no,
unless
because
he's
it
wrong,
actually is like
always.
Listen,
it's still
the
a line.
line, yeah, no, yeah, here comes your man, but it sounds so modern the way he says it that it makes it hit a lot more, and it kind of adds to the tragedy. And so, like, I think that that makes it work a lot better to really like, because with 10 Things I Hate About You or Great Expectations, they don't have as heavy an outcome as this one, and you really have to like believe that Romeo and Juliet are in love enough to take their own lives. And so I think the Old English dialogue kind of helps.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Kind of, it puts you in like in the real world, but also in such a different world. Like it's the language is like so. What years were that? Like 1600s, and so it's like you can kind of understand it, but like the rhythms are so strange, and there's like different words for things that we have now. So yeah, it is kind of, it's almost like dreamlike in a way, which is kind of how Moulin Rouge is. Like it's just
Hmm.
like
It's kind of how all his movies
so
are, you know?
imaginative. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think that's true. I think that's how you would believe that two star-crossed
Yeah.
teenagers would commit suicide after like a week of knowing each other.
And you
Like
know,
it's just such a loud movie and so crazy.
it's kind of like the opposite of the what's it called? Of the Great Gatsby, where I thought his style would connect real well to the Great Gatsby, but it doesn't, and I think it's because in this one, he doesn't go all the way. Like I think of there's like that scene in Elvis, which is my favorite scene, where he sings the protest song, and then it shows like a bunch of magazines behind him that says like Elvis does protests or whatever, um, and but then it cuts and we don't ever see the repercussions of that action. And so like that style, that quick style works in Romeo and Juliet because it almost gets you inside the head of these teen kids. Because when you're a teen, that is kind of how you think. Like everything moves
Yeah.
real fast. It's real bright. There's optimism.
Yeah, you can just kind
But
of like fly by the
as
seat
an
of your pants.
adult, yeah, they suck that right out of you. So like I think his style works really well here, where like it doesn't work as
Yeah.
well in The Great Gatsby, and in Elvis it has diminishing returns.
Yeah, I didn't see Elvis. I never got around to
You
that
should
one.
watch it.
I probably
Did you
should.
see it,
Yeah.
Bethany?
I did. I saw it in the theaters and then I watched it at home with my mom.
Yeah, what you
Was it pretty
think?
good?
Um, it wasn't my favorite, but I wasn't mad at it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
an okay
Cool.
movie.
it
Yeah, I
kind
think
of like
yeah.
all Baz Luhrmann films. It ranges between being hilarious and being kind of boring. Um,
Yeah, like Australia. Australia's like so long, and it's
yeah,
like when it's cool, but yeah, when it was someone so exciting, it's like hard to like with like the movie Silence, that Scorsese movie. Like, I don't love that movie because it's so fucking slow, and Scorsese is like the craziest guy.
right.
So it's like whenever Baz Luhrmann is like chilling, like in Australia, it's like I came here because you run fast, and right now
Yeah,
you're running motherfucking slow, and I can't handle this.
I know it is weird when he slows down because it's kind of like, hey, what are we doing here? But like, and I
Yeah.
like my one of my favorite things is like sometimes where because they make the police chief like one of the like instead of like the captain of whatever. What is he in the scripts? Captain
Uh,
Prince.
he's
He's
like
just the
a
prince, right?
constable or something.
Yeah, and in this one they make
Yeah.
him a cop, which works really well. I also like that they really like. I don't know how much they use for filming, but it looks like they use the entire city of Venice. You know, like,
Yeah.
they're like in the middle of the street fighting. They're in gas stations exploding, and so like it makes it feel very big. And when you think about it, there's not that many locations, but it feels like we're all over the place. And I think one of the things that
Right.
helps that is that opening.
Yeah, I think so
Speaking of
too.
openings, let's talk about my favorite character, John Leguizamo as Tybalt. There was
Yeah. Yeah.
my goal in life is to show up to one of my premieres dressed as John Leguizamo and Tybalt. Just the best, really.
You could do it.
I think I could. I should have done it last time.
Mhm.
Yeah. Get your sword guns.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like
But
he's. Oh, go for it.
oh, I just think that his style works really, and especially like maybe coming from us who like we had seen him in the past and like in Spawn, and so this kind of comes out of left field for his character. But the way he performs it and the way he does it, I think he might be the standout for me in this movie.
Yeah, he was really great. He's got such a flair. But
Yeah,
he's somehow always over the top, but like never actually over the top. Like he skims that surface just so perfectly, and like I feel like he does that in
yeah,
Moulin Rouge too, as Toulouse-Lautrec. Like he and Baz Luhrmann have like a really great synergy. I think, like, especially in those two movies, just like
right.
all this energy. I don't know, but never too much. Which I think some people would disagree with that. I think some people would think that it is too much, but I personally think it's like just right there.
Well, I kind of see it like Wes Anderson. Like people are always like, "Oh, another Wes Anderson movie," and it's kind of like, "Yeah, dude, nobody else is doing it like him. Why would we tell him to
Yeah,
stop doing it his way? What the hell is wrong with you?" Like
right.
even even Elvis, which I liked it okay. I think I liked it more than I've liked some of his other stuff. But even then, I would rather watch him do it his way than have him deliver like some boring ass regular biopic. I just think
Yeah, totally.
he has a style. Like let him fly.
Yeah, it's gonna have some good parts, even if it's not all the way great. Like a great director is still a
Yeah.
good artist,
I
for
do
sure.
think this is his strongest film.
Romeo and
What do you
Juliet.
guys think? Yeah, definitely.
I think Moulin Rouge, but that's just personal preference. I think they're both extremely great quality.
I think I'm a little biased, but yeah,
Yeah, she
I
chose
mean, I'd
this movie.
agree.
Bethany, what do you think about your
It's her
favorite movie?
favorite.
How good do you think it is? Also, this time when I was watching it, I was like, all right, I understand why this movie became a huge hit when you like see Leonardo DiCaprio and you're like, God damn, that guy's hot as shit.
Yeah, even to this day,
Even now.
we all used to call him Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh
Like
yeah.
whenever like all the teen girls were like all about him, and we were all like 14, and they wanted him, but they didn't want us because we weren't that cool. And so
Yeah.
I used to fucking hate that guy, even though I
I think
Right.
his performance is also absolutely incredible, and it makes me sad that he really is like, almost every single generation's pretty boy. Because I think that when they're like, "Oh my God, Leonardo DiCaprio was so great," it's like, yeah, of course you think he's great. He's pretty. You think he's cute, and it's like
Yeah.
he
no.
does so much more than that in this
Yeah,
movie. Like any other one, you say what you want. He's obviously a phenomenal actor, but he's so young in this, and it's such a specific role that he needed to do, and I think he did it perfectly, which
yeah,
I
Yeah.
love it so much.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like this back to back with like I think it was like this, and then Titanic came out.
Mm,
Is that right?
Yeah.
I
It's
think
like
so.
just two of these like forbidden romance movies, just like solidified him. Like he's been a star forever. He's been
Mm.
like even
Yeah.
there were like a couple of years after Titanic where he didn't do a lot. I feel,
Right. He
but
did
then
the
like he came back
beach.
with Catch Me If You Can, and like
Yeah.
after that he just was like every major director was like, "Hey man, let's do this."
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean you see it especially now, but you can even see it back then why why Scorsese was desperate to work with him and why like Tarantino doesn't stop work. Like, and it's funny because you see these people. Has any director only worked with DiCaprio once? Because it feels like they work with him. Even Lerman came back with Great
Yeah,
Gatsby, you know. And I think that that's always a sign of a or of a good actor when the directors want them to come back and everything.
yeah,
Yeah. Also, this time is the first time that I noticed that like there's a scene where Mauricio hits like he punches John Leguizamo and he misses so badly that they didn't even have a sound effect. Which
really.
always, yeah, it
Oh, I
reminded
didn't
me
even
of The
notice that.
Godfather. Yeah, those are always my. I don't try to catch a lot of mistakes, but missed punches is always my favorite because it's like, oh
Yeah,
man, because I can see myself in the editing booth being like, everything else works, just keep it.
yeah, that's what we're
I
for.
also like, and again, watching it again as an older person, I think that Shakespeare, Baz Luhrmann, they really captured what it felt like to talk like a teen and kind of have that mentality of like, the importance of everything goes way up when you're younger, and Romeo and Juliet are
Mhm.
obviously like 16, 17. But there's like that scene where Romeo's like, it's like he's gonna shoot John Leguizamo and he's like, it's gotta be you or I or both of us must go. And it's like, why would you add or both of us?
Yeah, why
What
Yeah,
are
not?
you
that's just
doing,
my favorite scene in the whole
Shakespeare?
thing.
Yeah, it's really cool. And again, like I think, and that's what I think. Like you needed John Leguizamo, you needed Leonardo DiCaprio. Even Claire Danes does a great job because the fact that they're in a modern setting and they're saying stuff. Because the actual line is, "You or I or both, or thou or I or both must go with him." That could have come off like so many lines in this movie could have come off cheesy and kind of
Mhm.
not worked in the modern setting. But the fact that you have this talent and the fact that Baz Luhrmann knows exactly what he's doing and has that confidence, it's the only way it would have worked,
Yeah, yeah.
And like,
Even like all the different scenes, like the this I don't know if this is like the best scene, but like this is when it kind of like struck me for sure. But there's that part whenever Leo and I forget what the character's name is, but he's like that kind of meathead jock guy with like the blonde hair, and they're playing pool
yeah,
like at the very beginning.
yeah,
Like,
Benvolio.
his
yeah.
cousin, yeah.
If I'm being totally honest, y'all, I had a really great point that I was just about to make, and I don't remember what I was going to say. So that scene
William,
had something to do with something.
William, did you think that that guy was Michael Rappaport? Because I did until I looked up the cast list right now.
I didn't think that, but he looks so much like him.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, it's Michael Rappaport, and then I was checking. I was like, wait, he's not on here.
Yeah.
I do like the cousin. Oh my god, he rats out Romeo so quickly at the end there because then he's like, once they're gonna banish after he kills Tybalt, they're like, what happened? And he's like, oh, they were fighting, and then afterwards, after he says like they were fighting, and then they killed Mercutio, and then he killed, Romeo's the one who killed Tybalt, and then he's like, but Romeo was trying to keep peace, and it's like that's what you end with. That's what you should have started with, dude.
Yeah,
Romeo was defending himself.
come on.
And then he did kill him and chase him and murder him in cold blood. But still, it's Venice. That happens all the time in Venice.
Just
Come
another
on.
day.
Yeah. I will say that the thing that they portrayed is how cool and artistic Venice is in the daytime, and how you will immediately get murdered as soon as the night comes in Venice.
Yeah. Is
I
that a
remember-
statue? Oh, what were you gonna say?
I don't think so. I just remember like the first time me and William went to Venice, like we got there like at sunset because we wanted to see it on the beach, and then all the like store owners were like closing up, and we're like, why is everyone
Yeah.
leaving? And then we found
Come
out
on.
immediately.
Yeah, it's a fun city.
Yeah, I love that place. William, what
There's
were you
like
saying about the statue?
They show like a statue that looks like that Brazilian statue
Yeah.
of Jesus.
Mhm.
Is there a statue like that in Venice, or is that like do they like match?
No,
that
that
in
was
somehow?
definitely added. I don't, and
Okay,
I also
cool.
don't remember even seeing that. They where they're talking and stuff. It's like an old kind of amphitheater that's collapsed and it's no longer in use.
Yeah, that weird thing on the beach.
Mhm. But I
Yeah,
mean, we got
dreaming.
there. We got there like 8 years afterwards, so they probably tore it down. It's also cool
Yeah.
when because Mercutio dies and he's like he like curses them, both of their families, and then like the clouds come in.
Yeah,
It's such a visually beautiful scene because,
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I don't think they could have done it better. I think there was a lot of different ways that they could have represented what they were doing, but it really feels like a film that William Shakespeare himself looked at and was like, yeah, no, this is perfect. Go for it.
Yeah,
I'm
and
down
I
now.
think
Me.
Thank you.
yeah, it's also the thing where like sometimes when you, especially when you watch any adaptation, not just Shakespeare's, but you kind of see there's kind of parts where you're like, oh, they cut this or like they took this out, and it almost feels like with Baz Luhrmann, he does the opposite, where like he's trying to keep in as much of the original play as possible. And again, like just the amount of effort he put into every single one of like how would like again like how would their kingdoms be shown in modern times? Would they be business owners? You know, they're on the beach and that like works really well. They're at a party. It's like a costume party. And so it allows like
Yeah.
just so much of it works for adding like adapting it to modern times and not just oh, we just kind of took the basics of the story and made it hip.
Right. Yeah, they went as crazy out there as they possibly could.
Yeah,
The party
and I
scene is
appreciate
really
it.
great. That's
Yeah.
that feels like drugs. Like that they got it down. That worked.
Even the drugs, like yeah, doing
Mhm.
ecstasy also worked.
Yeah.
And everyone's gun is like the long sword is a shotgun.
Yeah, they're insane.
Also, the party scene is my favorite scene because they have it just keeps cutting to Paul Rudd like smiling
What, an
and staring.
astronaut suit?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Paul Rudd just makes the best faces in the world.
I know. Just such a friendly guy.
Yeah.
He's
I
just
love
happy to
his
be there.
attitude.
Yeah.
But it seems like, yeah, I just think, I even think Claire Danes, like, it's crazy that this is one of Claire Danes' first roles, you know, because she does a really good job. Yeah.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she's cool. She's like every time I see that she's in something, it's always like a plus.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that it works. I just think every part of this movie works, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, good. Let me see. Yeah, the cousin sucks. I also like. I mean, it doesn't even feel. You feel the tragedy. I feel a lot because of how young the actors are. It really helps to kind of carry that kind of tone the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I can't stop thinking. Like, imagine how fun this movie would be, especially if you're like one of the Capulets or the Montagues, because you get like not only do you get a cool ass gun, you get a cool ass outfit, and your gun says sword on it. I would be playing with that thing the entire time.
Yeah. I think they
And
do
if-
too.
Yeah, I feel like Jamie Kennedy definitely did.
Yeah.
He has like that one scene, but he's very good in it. Jamie
Jamie
Kennedy's
Kennedy.
like, yeah, or is it Jamie
The-
Kennedy?
Yeah, in the gas
beginning.
station shootout.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I
definitely
like
a who's
that.
who of like
Dude,
Jesse Bradford was in there too
yeah.
for a little while. It's like hell yeah.
Jesse Bradford is just introduced so that he can discover Romeo and Juliet at the end. They're like, oh,
Yeah,
here's his
pretty
friend.
much.
All his other friends are dead because of the course of this thing, you know?
It's pretty
Yeah.
much Balthazar in every version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also like they really I don't know it's funny how much this and maybe just because I'm not the hugest Shakespeare fan, but I feel like this movie brings out like a lot of the themes that I don't really see in a lot. Like the parents have so much importance in this movie, and maybe it's because they did get Paul Sorvino and Brian Dennehy, but I don't know. It just feels like I feel them a lot more than other adaptations, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that too. I when I was studying it in school, I'm like such a nerd. Everyone hates me. They're like, "Oh my god, yeah, okay, we get it. You like Shakespeare." But in like, I think it was no, I think it was ninth grade that we read it. Um, and every single person in the classroom, no matter how studious they were like, "Ugh, I hate this. I can't understand Shakespeare. This is so lame." And then we watched the movie, and they were like, "Oh, this movie would be great if I could understand what they were saying." And it's like,
Oh
the
yeah.
whole time I was just like, "Do you want me to write you notes or something?" Like, you
Yeah.
have to try to learn it, to understand it, and then, you know, and then think about the themes and everything. But I
Right.
think that this movie, it keeps the dialogue, but it does it in a way that is so easy to understand so that people who
Hmm.
wouldn't normally care about anything to do with Shakespeare, they're like, oh wait, this is actually kind of cool. And then maybe they'll go home and read it or watch other Shakespeare versions or do some, which I really like because it brings a whole new audience into it while still being
Yeah.
like almost more impactful than a lot of other versions. Because
Yeah.
it's something
Yeah.
that most people can relate to and they watch it and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize this was a thing.
Right. Yeah. It adds like a whole new layer of context to like
Mm,
the modern world and like how this story could still actually exist
yeah,
in like this day and age.
Like and that was a good point.
That
yeah,
was a good point.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and the music, like he mixes modern music with old timey music. I think it just
The
works
Radiohead.
overall. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I think that's the thing is like the thing I always will appreciate about Baz Luhrmann or like Wes Anderson is that they jump head first into their style, and I would much rather appreciate that than this kind of like half-assed. I'm scared
Yeah.
to like admit what I want to do.
For real.
Yeah.
Mm,
And we've seen it before. Like you see like a movie where like you can tell they kind of get skittish halfway through. Like Doom, and this is a funny comparison to be comparing Wes Anderson and Baz Luhrmann to Doom. But like Doom has that sequence at the end where it's all in first
First person.
person,
Oh god, yeah.
and it's like, listen, do it or don't do it. But
I
let's
know.
not
It's
like do
so
this
fucking lame.
half. Yeah, I mean it is lame, but still, I would have appreciated more if they went all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, I think it's a good movie. I appreciate it a lot more this time. I guess because I hadn't watched it in a while. But I even liked it as a kid. I just like John Leguizamo fucking things up, and also Leonardo DiCaprio falling in love. And I stopped it before the end. I assumed that they got married. But yeah, William, do you have any last William's frozen on me? Bethany, do you have any last words on Romeo plus Juliet?
I was gonna ask if you guys had any parts of the film that you didn't like anything that you were like, oh,
I will say that it does take a second for the dialogue to like really kind of like
Hate you?
begin to be cool in a way.
Yeah.
Like when it first starts off, I found it a little like okay, this is kind of weird. They're going straight for the old English. But then like as you get into it, like you kind of like don't notice it and then like you realize like how fun this movie has become. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily the movie being bad. That was more of just like it did take me a couple of minutes to like really get with the flow, I think, of the
mm,
movie.
Yeah. See, I don't know. Maybe because I've seen this movie a couple of times, so I wasn't real. I was expecting it, so I felt like I jumped into it a lot sooner than I have in the past. But I remember watching it the first time. I was like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yeah.
Because I thought, like, you watch it, and I thought it was just the beginning that does it, but it happens the whole time, and I was like, oh, "Okay, this is so weird."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think overall, Bethany, did you have any points where that you didn't like?
I don't know. I mean, again, it's my favorite movie, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't love the wedding scene. I don't like that they
Really?
really include that because it was purposefully left out of the play. And like almost every adaptation, it's not supposed to be there because the entire point of like this 3 day like crazy circumstance is that it's not about like obviously it's about the romance and about like lust versus love, but it's not supposed to focus on the actual ceremony and the marriage part. It's supposed to
Yeah.
focus on how quickly it's moving and how there's you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the biggest deal in the world because like it's cute and whatever, but I just don't think it was needed. I think they totally could have just shown the outside of a church and then moved on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of like diminishes the point by adding a couple
Yeah.
extraneous details in a way.
I kind of feel like anytime they can add a church, then have a neon cross, I'm down for it. So I
Yeah, the blue neon crosses are pretty sick.
Yeah.
anytime any movie that has a blue neon cross, I give them an extra point. Spawn, this one, I think that's it.
And they have a bunch. They
Big,
have like a million
yeah.
of them.
Yeah, but they don't count all of them. But yeah, I think they're all. I think it works. I think especially because that was probably a studio note, like, hey, we need to see them fall in
Yeah,
love.
I wonder if it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that Baz Luhrmann was like, okay, well, I'm gonna make the most extravagant church you've ever seen
Yeah. Fuck
in
you.
the world, and he's like, oh yeah, the priest would have to like light every candle all day, every day,
And he will.
and he's going to. But no, I think overall, I mean, this time I really didn't see anything I didn't like. I think it flows well. The pacing's good. Cinematography, of course, rocks.
Yeah.
I love the camera work and the way he like speeds things up and slows things down. The
Yeah.
acting's great.
The
No, I
mom
really
from
didn't.
Heat is
The mom from Heat.
Juliet's mom, which is very
Yeah.
cool. I don't think I've ever seen her in anything else.
I know.
It was really great.
Yeah. Paul Sorvinoing it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think the movie's good. I think it works really well. And I think, like, especially if you're trying to get someone into Shakespeare, I mean, they do have to pay attention. That is the thing. But, like, pay attention to movies, guys, and then you won't have so much problems with them talking.
Yeah.
But yeah. But, well, cool. William, any last thoughts?
If you're trying to see some cool stars for the 90s and, I don't know, have a good fun time with some classics, hit up Romeo plus Juliet. And if you like
Yeah.
Moulin Rouge, you might as well watch this movie because it is so similar and also very fun.
And if you're writing a book report and you're using this review to cheat, keep in mind that Bethany says they don't cover the wedding as much. Put that in there, and I'll bet you get some
Yeah.
extra credit.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I don't know why they would. Yeah, I don't know if it'll work because then it'll kind of give away that you watched the movie.
They're just like, fuck yeah, Bethany. They did not have the wedding in the play.
Yeah, but still, that's a in the clips notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think overall it's good.
Mhm.
Bethany, any last thoughts?
No, this was super fun.
Yeah, I think overall this movie was really good. But yeah, thank you, Bethany, for joining us. Next time we have to pick a movie for you.
Ooh, okay.
It's gonna be Baz Luhrmann, but another one.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
But
When we
yeah,
watch
so
Juliet,
next
we can all just kind of sit there.
yeah. So be like, I don't know, man.
It was fun.
Jackman's cool. But fun times. It was super fun. I'm glad you got to come on. Hopefully you'll see even more of mine and Bethany's work coming up. We're not even in the filming stages yet, but that's how fast films moves, guys.
God.
Actually, by the time this is out, we might be. But anyway, thank you for joining us, Bethany. And where can people find you?
Pretty much everywhere. Just search up Bethany Reay. You can Google me, and I think my name comes up, my face comes up, and you just click on it. You'll find me.
Cool. And I'll put the link. I'll put links at the bottom for like her Twitch and stuff, just so you guys can join. I would suggest following her. Check out Twitch, especially if you like playing games and stuff. I don't like watching Twitch, but Bethany's pretty entertaining if you check her out. So the rare anti-Twitch recommendation from Andrew Hada.
That's how you know it's cool.
Exactly. So yeah, check that out. There's also a movie up there called The Empty Space. Check it out. If you've already checked it out, watch it again. Buy it on Blu-ray. Buy it on Vudu. Buy it on Amazon. By this point, it won't be on other places, but you can buy it on those places. And then buy it for friends. I heard on Amazon you can buy movies for friends. They love low-budget movies shot in Las Cruces as gifts.
yeah.
So buy away. But yeah, thank you guys as always for joining us on the Bomb Squad. and we'll see you next time.